Svana took up the scroll and wound the wooden spools to read. Nature, Biosystems, Biodiversity Development. Biodiversity is the result of the evolution of an environment and the organisms the environment supports. The combination of specific matter and specific energy is the seed force that contains specific potential. As an environment changes due to a shifting combination of matter and energy, so does the expression of it change in terms of the characteristics of the organisms it allows to develop, and which of those it ultimately supports. The potential of the environment is contained within its latent material complexity, which unfolds over time to the extent it is energized. Different environments give rise to the potential for different organisms to manifest. As such, a less involved environment gives rise to less evolved organisms. Organisms grow out of environments that provide a basis for their support. They then feed on that environment and thrive to the extent allowed by the provisioning the environment offers, as limited by the influence of competing elements within the environment. Within that macro context, micro contexts exist, which are themselves macrocosms for further expressions of the manifestation of potential. Similarly, that macro context is itself a microcosm of a larger, even more inclusive macro context. In the extreme macro, the extent of the continuum of expressive potential is infinite to the extent of absolute infinity. However, within the context of any given manifestation, the continuum is finite to the extent of the particularization of expression required for interconnected growth to take place. In that finite context, the course of evolution develops to the extent it is not hampered due to acute or chronic environmental conditions, and will expand through emanation to express the latent potential of its seed force. In the case of an environment, the seed force is the expression of potential at its birth, the partnership between the matter and the energy that gives rise to its manifestation. Any given entity represents a set of potential that is manifestly expressed through engagement with energy. For an environment to reach its potential for manifested form, it must allow for the gradual evolution in time through selection of that which it births. The selection process is defined by objective necessity. It is a strict balance of manifested interests within the context of the environment. Any time the environment shifts, it favors certain manifestation over other manifestation. These shifts can either increase the unfolding of potential through evolution, or can decrease the unfolding of potential by hindering the possibility for evolution. The unfolding of potential within this context increases until it meets the limitations imposed by the characteristics of the environment, and then stabilizes in dynamic balance until the environment shifts again. All manifestation changes over time, and as environments change, the dynamic balance of the microcosms within that macro environment change accordingly. When environments remain consistent over long periods of time, the ability for organisms within those environments to reproduce according to more specific environmental characteristics increases. In that case, the diversity of the embodied life grows to meet the increasing ability for the environment to provide. The extent of the complexity of provision is precisely met by the extent of the complexity of embodied life within the environment. As embodied life expands in its representation, the expression of potential is made manifest as a resource within the environment. It is no longer latent, but rather expressed as particular influences that together balance to indicate the constitution of the whole. All manifestation expresses inherent interest through the specific nature of its manifestation. With the expression of inherent interest comes the influence of that expression in the environment in which it is manifested. The influence of a particular expression will strengthen to the extent it is relied upon within the environment. To the extent a given embodiment evolves to exert influence on the elements of its environment, it may manifest itself more completely as a representation of that environment's interests. This increasing range of expression towards totality of potential in a given environment over time gives rise to the evolutionary possibility for the development of reflective awareness. Reflective awareness allows the reflective understanding of the innate impetus that is structured into the function of the organism. This innate influence is the result of the simultaneous linked evolution of mind and body as a singular expression of seed force or spirit. By understanding innate function through reflective awareness, the organism gains the ability to recognize how, within a given environment, certain functions may be encouraged or discouraged to achieve different results that are more or less favorable to the organism itself. The effective guiding of the manifestation of potential gives rise to the flourishing of that which the guidance actually functions to support. The complexity of function is determined by the complexity of the manipulated system relative to the complexity of the manipulating organism. To the extent the manipulating organism fails to control for its effect, to limit its own influence to that which it comprehends, it may inadvertently cause potentially detrimental effects. To the extent the manipulating organism manipulates its environment in ways that bring about detrimental effects, its realization of its own potential will be limited. Avoidance of detrimental effects in the context of manipulation is accomplished through understanding and acting in accordance with the balance of the overall interconnected system that allows the organism's existence. This alignment of interests must occur in the macro as well as in the micro sense of the specific environment in question. The manipulation of environments, in the absence of an objective account of the system's own requirements, leads to a depletion of the system's potential to the extent it is hindered as a result of the manipulation.